thank you for Xiang to share around the GGS survey and also the scene and also the how to support to inform the policymaker. So this is the second sub-session. My name is Walter Ling. I'm the Managing Director of the Sedex in Asia, who will be this moderator at the session. So morning, afternoon, everyone. So no matter where you are in the world, welcome to this session. So before I kicking off this session, and I would like to do a very quick briefing on what Sedex. So Sedex is a global business membership organization to join companies in the global supply chain to improve their social and environmental performance. So while our exchange data platform, actionable data insight, tool and methodology and project, we are working with our members to promote a sustainable and responsible business, which will benefit for the people and the environment. So alongside with me, I'd like to introduce two of my good friends and also my colleague. So the first one is the Claire. Claire, are you online? Can
Hi,
you tell?
Walter.
Hi. So Claire is the Symetra Evolution and Impact Lead based in UK, and she getting up very early in London. But also, I'd like to introduce Alex from Wulula, which is the program manager for analytics based in Canada, which is very late at your end, Alex. Alex, are you online?
Hi, I good
Okay.
afternoon.
Okay, great. So we don't have a presentation at this moment. So this is we will run by a very quick Q&A questions. So I think initially I'd like to say nowadays more and more companies and organizations, both in the public and the private sectors, all talk about the sustainability, all the ESG, which is environment, social, and governance. So the social element, gender equality, or women empowerment, which is a fundamental and key topic. And as everybody knows that supply chain is a critical part of any companies or organizations. So women in the supply chain could play a very important role to shape the business as well. So our session will aim to look at the gender equality and the women empowerment from a sustainability assessment perspective, but also the workforce or worker voice engagement technology perspective as well. So first, my question to you, Claire. So our audience, no matter they are on-site or online, may not be familiar with the supply chain sustainability assessment tool, such as SAQ or Symetra. So can you have a quick introduction around SAQ or Symetra and how this tool can play a role in identifying and collecting data in a way that is gender sensitive and inclusive? So over to you, Claire.
Thank you so much, Walter, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here this morning for me, but this evening for many of you as well. Um, just a quick introduction to the tools that we have at Sedex for managing supply chain risk in global supply chains. We have two our fundamental tools, and we have a suite of other tools available, but our two fundamental ones, and we're going to focus on today, our SAQ, which is self assessment questionnaire, which is a tool for suppliers to share up to date information on their workforce, their policies and processes that they have in place to address environmental and human rights issues and risks at worksite level back to their buyers. We also have our kind of flagship tool, which is the SMETA social audit tool. This is an on site evaluation of the working conditions and environmental conditions at a worksite level, which assesses them against international labour conventions and local legislation. The process includes a mix of different data gathering techniques, including a site inspection, a document reviews, and also interviewing workers. So beyond just the individual site detection that this data can provide back an analysis of to buyers, we also collect a wealth of data through these tools from which risks can be identified more sectorally, more at a country level, And we're able to really look at the data that we have to allow companies to direct their further human rights due diligence activities that they undertake on site and to measure the impact of those activities. When we get into the gender data collection and also why it is so critical for audits, social audits, and social compliance mechanisms to be gender sensitive, we really come down to kind of a fundamental point that gender data here is absolutely critical. Without gender disaggregated data, women's issues become invisible in your supply chain. It becomes very difficult to identify when risks have a gendered element to them, where they might have a higher impact on a certain workforce profile within your supply chain, which can lead to the implementation of gender blind policies and programs, which ultimately lead to poor outcomes for women workers and also for others, including businesses. So, where we really are focusing a lot of our attention at Sedex has been on improving the workforce profile data that we gather, how much of that is gender disaggregated, allowing a much richer picture of the demographic of a workforce, from who is in what genders are in what roles on site, to who is paid at what levels on site, to what kind of contracts are held on site, to different vulnerabilities that can also be intersectional, such as how many women are migrant laborers as well, which can really help to stop some of the policies and programs that are being put into place from being quite so gender blind. Where we have some challenges in this area is that we're a global and cross-sectoral organization, so we're really having to upskill and to improve the human resources tools that are in place in work sites across the world, so that they can really accommodate these new kind of gender data points and being able to share them back to our tools. uh, our other kind of critical area that we have that we know makes such a difference in ensuring that the social audits themselves are gender sensitive is looking at the approach to the gender collection. We understand and we know through pilots that we have undertaken just what a difference it makes when there are women auditors on site, and where there has been specific training of auditors on the gender dimensions to the risks that they are assessing against. We have seen through recent pilots where we have looked at gender sensitive approaches to audits that you can more than triple the gendered risks that you find on site just through the two simple acts of gender sensitive training of auditors and having women or female auditors on sites. And then the third kind of critical area that we need to address when we're looking at ensuring that the gender data that we're collecting is fit for purpose is how it is used after we have collected it, how we convert it um, into insights from raw data, ensuring that the data is not just being collected and held at buyer level in individual organizations, but that it is actually then channeled into the policies, the programs, the due diligence activities that are undertaken. And we can really encourage this by being able to evidence back through our data, evidence of what has worked and what doesn't work through our data. We can really track some of the larger changes that you want to see: a reduction in absenteeism of women, a reduction in the turnover in women at site level, can be tracked through our tools and traced back to the activities that you undertake on site. So we've really it's a challenging area. It's no two supply chains are the same, but really by adding in these gender disaggregated data points and making better use of the data, we can eventually hopefully create much better outcomes for women workers. Thank you, Walter.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. So I think it's very important we not only to collect the data, but what's the purpose? Make full use of the women or gender data, which can make better impact. So now I will pass back to you, Alex. So I understand that new technological solutions are being deployed to amplify workers' voice and help the employer make better decisions. So Alex, do you want to introduce Ulula and how you are using mobile technology to center workers' voice? And how do you see the role of the worker engagement technology in gathering gender sensitive and inclusive voice from the workers? So it's your turn, Alex.
Thank you, Walter. Sorry, I seem to be echoing. That's just me.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So from Ulula, we are a Toronto, Canada-based technology companies that where we have team all around the world, and we deploy two main products: grievance mechanism and anonymous surveys with workers and communities around the world. We work in manufacturing, where we collaborate with Sedex, but also in agriculture, in mining, in construction, in fisheries, and other sectors. Um, as of this moment, we have deployed projects in just over 50 countries globally, including specific fairly difficult contexts such as North Kivu and Ituri in Eastern DRC, for example. So specifically in manufacturing, we collaborate with brands and the suppliers to help them manage labor standards and human rights within their supply chain. And we do this by running mobile-based surveys directly with workers um, of both online and offline channels. We offer multiple channels, and this enable workers to offer their honest opinion directly to the brands or to other buyers globally, um, choosing a channel that is most convenient for them, depending on their access to the technology and their level of income, but also in their preferred language. And we run surveys in any language globally, including ones that are spoken only, doesn't have written form, for example. Um, so because our technology are available, through multiple channels and languages, we are able to reach workers that are not always easy to reach. Even within formalized manufacturing workplaces, we could reach migrant workers who might have lower level of literacy or have a more difficult time accessing standard grievance mechanism or standard surveying tools. Uh, and in sort of speaking of the inclusiveness of the women, in some places where women voices are not um, as loud or as audible due to cultural reasons or maybe other factors, um, we've been able to offer them a way to share their honest opinions in an anonymous manner that they could feel safe about. And uh, in this way, amplifying their voices and ensure that they have a fair representations in a lot of other interventions that might have, including meta audits, for example. Um, the other thing that we have done to improve women's representations of minority groups in supply chains management, human right management efforts, uh, to do, even though our surveys are always anonymous, we have a way to enable people who consent, who provide consent, to be retained in a sense of being a panel. So we can always reach out to them after the initial survey, um, with follow-up survey. So we can always send surveys that are specifically about their experience of, if this initial survey showed that there was a lot of experience of sexual harassment, for example, we could send follow-up survey to a specific group. So, for example, to women only, or to women migrant workers only, to really get a better pictures of the context and the real situation there. And last but not least, we to close the loop, we could also what we've always done is to close the loop in at sites where we run the survey over a long period of time by um, asking questions about the effectiveness of training. So we could, the initial survey might have detected certain issues, and we are able to send follow-up survey that asks about the effectiveness of the measures that management have implemented in the meantime. And again, segregate this by the experience of men and women to see if certain type of training works better for certain groups, certain intervention benefit one groups better than others, and from these we can gain some lessons learned that way. That's all from me. Thank you, Walter.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And just caution the time, we might have only have 2 or 3 minutes left. And my last question, probably which the Claire mentioned, between Sedex and Ulula, there is a collaboration and pilot project to integrate the employment participation project into the Sedex supply chain sustainability assessment schemata. So can you quickly to talk about how you collaborate and whether any learnings could be shared with our audience? And during this collaboration, or the combination of these two methods, what positive role does it play in promotion for the gender sensitive or inclusion to women's? Thank you. So over to you for the quick answers.
I'll be very quick from my side, Walter. So we were very keen at Sedex to partner with Alula to really try to understand whether arming auditors with better data ahead of an audit, gender disaggregated data through worker surveys, could help them to identify some of the more deep-rooted and discriminatory issues that are on site that are historically very difficult to find, whether they could analyze this data and be able to use it to find these hidden risks, and also whether partnering with worker survey tools allowed for more women to be part of the audit process and allowed their voices to be heard more easily and for it to be more of uh, um, a gender sensitive approach. I'll pass over to Alex for further comment.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick as well. So just a little bit of context on this. We ran the pilot with Sedex in 4 different countries: Australia, China, India, and Mexico. And we cover close to, I think, over 7 languages in these countries. So we cover not only the local languages, but also languages for migrant workers. The pilot ran between November 2021 and July 2022. And some of the interesting findings were we found situation where women reported working fewer hours than their male counterparts, and potentially giving this information to auditors ahead of time would enable them to sort of expect this and know, to be able to have access to women voices, even though they might not be on site when the actual auditor is on site. Similarly, we have been able to run questions around areas where there's a question around health benefits or experience with sexual harassment, and in situations where a female auditor is not available, these are traditionally areas where it might be a bit more difficult for an auditor to be able to detect during on-site interview, just from cultural hesitance of communicating with a man. And using the combinations of worker voice survey and SMED social audit, we have been able to enable the auditors to see this kind of pattern in advance and prepare their audit a little better, so they could potentially sort of dig into this in a sensitive way, but instead of knowing what to expect to some degree.
Okay, thank you, Claire, and thank you, Alex. And finally, I will quickly to share a very quick presentation. I know it's running out of time. And just to show a summary, I'm not quite sure everyone can see that. So it's more about recap of our session to talk about the 3 points. And in case anybody online or in the on-site, if you've got any further question, please feel free to contact Claire and Alex for further comment and question, because they are their emails in here. So I will pause for now, and thank you for everyone to join our session, and I will pass over to the next session moderators. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Claire. I will stop sharing for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Claire.